Welcome to another live feed on Rashad's YouTube channel. Continue with the Sermon on the Mount book, chapter 71, Mind Your Own Business. Matthew chapter 7, let's get into it. Verse 4. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? Let's get into it. Then I'll get into 73, Bears over Redskins, and those greatest Massacre. Look, start with the Word of God. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? The last verse, Shorty, Kendo talking about right now is implies meddling and interfering in people's affairs. Judging is secondhand. Sometimes that that's judging about people. The other word for it is gossip. Takes out of first-hand judgment, sometimes called confrontational. Confrontation, Jesus said, how do you do it? He assumes we are rational, fair-minded people. He's showing the absurdity of it. The purpose of it in these lines is basically twofold: to wake us up and bring us to our senses. As it is as if Jesus says, how can you do this? Meaning, it's not appropriate, certainly, for you to confront another. Having thought things enough through, you would not speak like this. Two, to show we are disqualified to judge when our own house isn't in order. How can you say to your brother, imagine Hitler speaking in racism, or Playboy magazine speaking against sexual promiscuity, or corrupt TV evangelists speaking against inappropriate behavior. Jesus asks, how can you? And yet, we do. It shows how hypocritical the human heart is. Yours and mine, so you will recall that the clause of fault finding is that plank in our eye. It magnifies their fault and binds us to our own. The issue in the verse we look at here is the unreasonableness of meddling. You have not only located a fault in the other person, but you can even feel qualified to straighten the person out. The exception, however, is if you had a plank, no plank in your eye, it would not be unreasonable to offer help. That comes up in the next chapter. When you do have the plank, which you do, you're the guiltier and more ridiculous by meddling in another's business. Why do people meddle? We meddle in another's affairs, and yet it does not bother us. Why? It is because the plank in our eye becomes a comfort zone. The plank which blinds us to ourselves enables us to live in a dream world. We stay blind to our faults. We therefore meddle in other people's affairs, for we know we are doing it. For example, I think it makes an example like, let's say, someone stood a little bit of grace given to himself, and he tells himself he must sort this person out who convinced doesn't have much grace. Obviously, Kendall says himself, makes himself a committee or one to straighten them out. Make no mistake, the grace given to Obviously Kendall is very real. He understands that insight, renewed strength, and to feel God's presence. For he knows it, he begins to take himself very seriously indeed. He reckons he don't have the old problem anymore. He understands it qualifies him to sort another out. He forgets that the grace given to me, only God being gracious and not because he's cut above others. Therefore, he feels no conscience at all in moving in another person's privacy, sorting them out. This is how it often happens. And a frequent ingredient in this scenario is that Walter Kimball may not have had a problem with his own weakness lately. He constantly tells himself that he don't have this problem anymore. It may have to do with pointing the finger, losing his temper, controlling its tongue, and see that you have the problem. Walter Kimball used to have and feel qualified to sort you out. Jesus says, how can you do this? Ortiz still says, he have shown how he can do it. Only to get his hands burnt. Perhaps he did not have the particular problem, never had, probably never will. But he tells himself that he is and to work not about. The truth is, he doesn't have a clue what it's like to be them, have their particular weakness. Nothing could be more insistent than trying to help them. But he carries it on. So that's what he talks about, for example. Okay, beyond the receiving end of meddling. What is it like when We are on the receiving end of meddling. I'm sure you know how people try to meddle in your life. How can you love it when someone uninvited intrudes in your life? This is exactly what Job's so-called friends did, quote unquote friends did. They were complete and perfect meddlers. The meddler always takes the initiative and is always uninvited. They feel qualified to meddle. Things are so clear to them. But Peter says that if we are going to suffer, be sure it's not because you are a meddler. How many of us could tell some stories of if only we had minded our own business? For meddler is uninvited, but also unwelcome. There's such a thing as an uninvited guest who is most welcome, not the meddler. Would you want to go where you are not wanted? Remember this, when you are tempted to say, let me take the speck out of your eye, you are an uninvited, unwelcome guest. You might like to know, too, that the first major onslaught to the Christian faith was by the Gnostics. They were meddlers. Let's read Jude chapter 4 and 12. Let's read Jude 4 and 12. Meddlers are not only uninvited and unwelcome, but also their opinions are unwarranted. That is, a meddler has no right to speak. He has a right to judge. Why? He was sinless. There is no speck of flint in his eye. He died for us. His blood gives him entry to do what he pleases with us. So, we are bought with Christ. Without you, he's not like blazing fire. He searches hearts and minds. Descriptions, we follow that which is unwarranted. Whenever God wishes to speak, he has a right to enter, to intrude, to confront. Because it's totally, he has nothing to prove. All he does is for our good. But you do not have a warrant from the Holy Spirit to meddle in other people's affairs. Why? There's a plank in my eye. That plank discars me from meddling. That should have reached us. We fulfill the right to straighten other out as long as we have a plank. Meddling is unwholesome. It is harmful to your well-being. It is not good for you. It oppresses. It is demoralizing. It gives so many of the negative effects that Satan can put on a person. Why is this? Because meddling almost always emanates from a spirit of fear, which gives Satan an entry point. The person who knows is probably governed by fear, by need that is rooted in unresolved conflict. The person who meddles often is covering his or her own sense of guilt, pointing the fingers, copping out. What does meddling do to this person? On the receiving end, it hurts. Possibly makes him feel guilty. Probably blows his or her self-esteem. It discourages, and the word is counterproductive. It achieves the opposite effect of what you intended. Why so? Because it is not God's way of edifying one another. So here's our response to meddling. What we are to do when someone comes uninvited and points a finger at us. First, agree with them. Seldom ask who with your adversary. You have already seen soft words and gentle answer. Turns wrath away. After all, there is usually a bit of truth to what they are saying. So a good reply is, I see what you mean. Quite right you are. How foolish I've been. By agreeing with them, you refuse them. You even learn from them. Paul admitted he was a debtor both to the wise and foolish. You can also thank them for what they said to you. It's what you want to think is if it annoys them, so they will up to them good. If it pleases them, you have avoided an unhappy conversation. You even let them face to your face. You may ask, will I not be embedded then? Encourage them to keep meddling? I reply, you are not their judge. You are not the one to straighten them out. You might become a meddler. Always maintain a sweet spirit. After all, you must not grieve the Holy Spirit by the way you react. The meddling, almost certainly of the devil, saying to throw you. If you grieve the Holy Spirit by the way you react, the devil has achieved his aim. Again, remember, soft words turn away wrath. What you must not do is to defend yourself. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to the other side also. Always maintain a sweet spirit. Agree with them. Thank you. Joe's big mistake was defending himself. Don't try to impress them or show them how good you are or what a right you think you are. Never ever try to make yourself look good. You never have warrants to do this. Never punish them. Unfit love cast out fear, which has to do with punishment. Never get even or try. Never make them look bad. There are two more things you can do. Ask them to pray for you. This is when you can voice something that's most valid. Say to them, I need all the help and prayer I can get. Pray for them. But don't tell them you're doing it. By all means, pray for them. Meddling is of the devil. Like it or not, you and I are the devil's instrument when we meddle in others' affairs. It extends backfires on you. And that's Satan's aim in all of this. The devil always overreaches himself. You will be like Jesus, turn up cheap, not defend yourself. God will turn evil into good. The situation changed when he prayed for those men who made his life so miserable. When you meddle, confess to God. When you got a meddle, pray for them. Next, that's it for that chapter. Tomorrow will be in chapter 72, qualified to judge. Reading from Matthew chapter 7, verse 5, it says, You hypocrite, you'll take a plank out of your own eye, then you will see clear to remove the speck from your own brother's eye. Let's get to this Bears versus Redskins book, 73-0. This is a good book about the 1940 NFL championship games. It's pre-Super Bowl. So about the Hall of Fame line. Yes, Sid Luckman was a great field general. This is the NFL's greatest massacre, 73-0. Yes, Sid Luckman was a great field general. Yes, the Chicago Bears were explosive. The reason Luckman could recognize the save before the first quarter was even over that the Bears had control of the line of scrimmage was the Bears' coterie of fantastic linemen, like George Musso, was a 6'2", 262-pound guard tackle who, like his counterparts, played both ways on offense and defense. He attended small Milliken's University in Decatur, Illinois. He was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1982. While Musso was one of the larger players of his era, Diane Fortman was one of the smallest Steelers linemen. He was 6 feet tall, weighed 210 pounds. Fortman came out of Colgate University, selected for the Hall of Fame in 1965. 6'4", 233-pound Joe Stoudemire competed for both the University of Pittsburgh and West Virginia and was a Hall of Fame choice in 1967. Clyde Bulldog Turner is considered one of the greatest linemen in football history. For decades, was called the best center of all time. Turner, 6'1", 237 pounds, came out of the same hometown as Sammy Ball. Sweetwater, Texas, played small college ball for Hardin Simmons. His induction to the Hall of Fame occurred in 1966. 4 linemen played to get all advanced into the Hall of Fame, made it difficult to run on the Bears. Run past the Bears or get past the line into the backfield to tackle the Bears who might be carrying the ball. If you would have Redskins and you surveyed those sides of beef, you might have been afraid, very afraid. During Musso's 12-year stay with the Bears, Chicago won 4 NFL titles, 7 Western Division titles. The team's overall record was 104, 26, and 6. That's how the Bears eased into the nickname of the Monsters of the Midway. Musso was definitely one of the monsters. Musso's weight closed in on 270 pounds at a time, when even teammates on his own line weighed 60 pounds less. The 300-plus NFL lineman was a fact of the distant future. It was no wonder after seeing him up close in several big-time situations that Washington coach Ray Flaherty drove up sincere flattery for Musso. George was one of the outstanding linemen of his time. His size and speed made him a difficult target, particularly on defense. Musso's nickname was Big Bear, quite appropriate given his affiliation and his trademark was making his big plays during a career that spanned 1933 to 1944. That very much included proficiency in blocking kicks, much as he did in the first quarter of the 1940 title game when he got Paul on Ball's punt. Offensively, when Bronco Nagurski was the Bears' powerhouse fullback, Musso was assigned to open holes. Nagurski was known for putting his head down and pounding the head, and once ripped through the end zone, and crashed his head into the wall during a dugout at Wrigley Field. And blocking for Nagurski, he waits for no one. Musso said, if you don't open the hole, he'll hit you in the back. The next time you will either open it or get out of the way. Quick. Musso was quite captain of the Bears for years, but his life easily had turned in another direction. So I was a coal miner who had to be persuaded that Musso should rather stay in school, high school, never mind college. One of Musso's line opponents at Milliken was Eureka, College's Ronald Reagan. Russo outweighed Reagan by close to 100 pounds, but in the end, Reagan wielded more power than Russo during his later in life job as President of the United States. Interestingly, also as a collegian, Russo went head to head with another future president, Gerald Ford, when playing for Michigan. Yet Reagan had more speed than Russo and could beat him sometimes, pointing that trait. When it was muscle against muscle, Russo won the matchups. One of Russo's teammates, Red Range, called him the Moose. But got him Reagan halfway, standing up, I bowled him over. But he was smart enough most of the time to stay around the ankles. He said, nuisance, I'll tell you that. Why are you around my ankles all the time? Reagan replied, you take care of your position and I take care of mine. Politically, both Reagan and Ford outranked Russo as retiring from football became a crime stopper. So his parole officer and defended a separate sheriff was one election to become a sheriff when he was elected sheriff of Madison County in southern Illinois. Russo certainly had the build of an enforcer. Don't mess with me could have been his motto, same as it was on the gridiron. One of the more humorous incidents during his tenure was leading a raid, finding more guilty parties involved than he had prepared for. So Russo called taxi cabs to transport some of the rescues to jail. He ended up spending 8 years as sheriff and 12 as county treasurer. Even though he wasn't quite as big as Musso, Joe Steinhardt's nickname was Jumbo. He was an answer to a pretty good for a trivia question himself. Who was the first Chicago Bears #1 draft pick ever? Joe was the man in 1936 when the National Football League instituted a draft college players. He was another immovable object on the line, playing on three World Championship teams, five Western Division titles. Between 1936 and 1942 and again for a couple of years after World War II. Steinhardt later coached the Los Angeles Rams and Chicago Cardinals. Steinhardt was a 60-minute man. He played both ways on offense and defense. He was on the field for the entire game. Steinhardt did not wear a helmet in the early years of the Bears and for the Panthers of playing a bareheaded faded out during his stint with the team. Steinhardt was George Howard's type of player, rough, tough, who gave it all, who didn't complain, who was known for his integrity. The two men were close when Steinhardt played and remained close. After Steinhardt was a head coach in the league, lost those jobs and rejoined the Bears as an assistant head coach, just coach under Hallis. It was something special for me, more important than any of their football accomplishments. Bill Steinhardt was a man of outstanding character and loyalty, all the things that made Joe a great football player, reflecting his successful business career. House liked Steinhardt from the start, giving him more money from the they expected. To some who know that is right thing for me, telling some acts of temporary insanity. The biggest problem Steinhardt wasn't adapted to the pro game, but first learning how to drink, then learning how to stop. Went cold turkey to sobriety after some challenging times. Being drafted by the Bears was pretty much the most important thing that ever happened to Steinhardt, he said. That was a turning point in my life. The house has been like a second part of me. I didn't know anything about football until I had a chance to play for him. There were a few strange twists inside his pro career. He was a member of Stat Bears, and Clark Sorensen showed up to tutor Chicago in the ways of the T formation for the 1940 game. See this Sorensen as coach for the Rams, to being his assistant, and was insulted by him as he moved into the office to occupy from his chair. The outgoing coach said, Steinhardt coach of the Rams could take a high school team and beat him. Maybe not, since Steinhardt took the Rams to the 1950 Western Division crown and 1951 NFL title after Sorensen couldn't win though in 1948-49. Years later, when Steinhardt became a Bears assistant, the only team he said he wanted to work for at the time, he replaced Sorensen on the staff. He spent 2 years as defensive line coach before going into private business. That terminated Steinhardt's involvement with big football, but he was elected to the West Virginia University Sports Hall of Fame, the University College Football Hall of Fame. They probably wasn't a 210-pound lineman anywhere in the nation, top level of college football. Except for small schools, both college and high school, you won't find tackles and guards playing first string at heavyweight in the 2000s. But Dan Fortman somehow played the line for the Chicago Bears between 1936 and 1943, played it well enough to be chosen for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The guys lined up next to his players with nicknames like Jumbo and Moose, and they were kind enough not to call him physically. As a draft pick, Fortman almost qualified to be called Mr. Relevant. Moniker slapped on the last player chosen in the NFL draft these days. At 36, he's the Bears' ninth and last selection in the first draft. Somehow it seemed as if heart saw behind the lack of physical stature to Footman's heart. He made All-Pro 6 times in a career that ended when he entered the Navy during World War II. While playing pro football as a distinguished part of Footman's life, his true accomplishment was becoming a doctor, general surgeon after being released from the Navy. By the time Footman, who excelled in offensive guard, was selected for the Hall of Fame, he thought it was a case of mistaken identity because so much time had passed since retirement. Footman was only 19. He graduated from Colgate University, became eligible for the playoff draft. He had some learning to do to make the transition from college to the pros. He said he benefited mildly from playing with Joe Steinhardt. Alex could be a demanding taskmaster, but Portman didn't mind the hard work and he thought Alex was a masterful leader of men, understood how to psych up a team for top-notch performance. He particularly marveled at the way Alex boosted the team leading up to the romp over the Redskins. For 3 weeks, George kept reminding us of the close loss and what Marshall was saying about us. I have seen some highly charged teams during my playing days. The Bears that day, the highest emotionally of any team I ever saw. One thing that Fort got a kick out of on the day of that Supreme Massacre was claiming that he made a major contribution to the final score. He often joked that without him, it would never have been possible because he called a coin toss that gave the ball to the Bears to start the game. Uso, Steiderhart, and Portman, any NFL team would have loved to be able to say it owned rights to just one of them. And for all of the talent they ranked behind Turner, the Bulldog was the best of them all up front, a center who was revered in the game for decades, a linebacker who was playing the position almost as a hobby, but still intercepting passes constantly. Someone who came out of Sweetwater along with Sammy Ball would be worth asking for real just what was in the water that time that made it so sweet. Others suggested it was not exactly an aptly named place, but more of a scramble environment that the champ demanded a lot of energy put in by its residents for them to make a go of it. Turner was a product of a West Texas that could be harsh and unforgiving. He made it big elsewhere, but like Ball, he also returned to his roots. Like Ball, his later years weren't quite so pleasant. Young Clyde Turner was a terrific ball player, an excellent athlete who might well have been the second coming of Bronco University, gone straight after playing fullback, but instead became the first Bulldog Turner by ferociously tackling out of the Bronco runner reads. Turner was no secret coming out of college. He attended Will Harding, Simmons, who was big, fast, and could terrorize other teams. The big dudes who played in the 1940s were not to be confused with experience, but Turner was faster than most of his backs in the NFL. Once Turner in a spectacular play against the Redskins, I watched him running back a standing ball interception 97 yards for a touchdown. Ball, some 50 pounds lighter, someone who played quarterback or defensive back, caught up to Turner as he entered the end zone. Turner didn't understand how that was possible. How did you ever catch me, Sammy? Turner said, I know I can outrun you. Turner was a rookie in 1940, the season of the Redskins run, but he almost didn't become a Chicago Bear. Much as Chicago has coveted Turner and how clearly he recognized that he could be a special player. Detroit Lions scouts also had spotted him. The Lions had aid special visit to Texas to chat with Turner, gave him $200 and later group advance money the opportunity to have his teeth fixed by a dentist. Was really walking around money as a bribe so that Turner would think of the Lions founding. The Bears drafted Turner the league away, and then the dispute over Turner's right surface. Commissioner Burt Bell made the call that Turner belonged to the Bears. But the University of Chicago dropping their football, Chicago Bears were able to lay claim to the nickname the Monster of the Midway. The true monster among the monsters returned, as good as the gaggle of the Bears surrounding him was. Turner came from a hard background, made it hard on those who faced him on a gridiron. Rural West Texas lacked electricity, running water in their homes when Turner was a youth. Turner came of age during the Great Depression of the 1930s. His family lived almost amidst the same conditions in the years leading up to it. In Turner's neighborhood, many families subsisted on a barter system. They grew crops, traded them to other families in the same, just as they grew other fruits or vegetables. It was one way to keep food on the table during tough times. Of course, in a parched land where rain did not fall in abundance at any time, The Dust Bowl years were brutal, ongoing, anything consistently or with much success. Turner's father was a cowboy, a ranch hand, initially, but then tried farming and had to cope with the lengthy 1930s drought. Skip on a little bit. The Bears Redskins showdown for the NFL title in 1940 came at the end of the Turner's first season with George. He thought Hallis was a generous being by the way he emphasized George Preston Marshall's insults. He felt they did fire up the Bears as they wiped the grass with Washington. There was only one thing that annoyed Bulldog Turner that day, as the Bears kept piling up touchdowns and kicking the extra points that sailed into the stands, and as the balls never to be seen again. The House wanted his center to purposely hike the ball in a slightly way so that the kicker could not convert. Turner was appalled by this request, a order, and it went against his nature. I told House I wasn't going to make a bad snap, not no championship game. Turner recalled. Turner was a perfectionist, took pride in not making mistakes, though inevitably they were committed even by the best players. House was the coach and Turner was a rookie player. Finally, House convinced Turner to simply drop the ball instead of snapping it to the holder. The next day, in the paper, they say the point was missed due to a bad pass from center. Blank, I never made a bad pass in my life. And it gave no quarter game that was showing a little bit of kindness to the Redskins, even if that wasn't Howard's motivation. Just wanted to say the cause of football. All right, tomorrow I'll be going to talk about the second quarter of the Bears Redskins game. The 73 game, the Bears won by 73 points. The FL's greatest massacre. In that second quarter tomorrow. That's it. Today's book reading, Sermon on the Mount. Read about mind your own business. Read about that in that chapter. Sermon on the Mount, book the teachings of Jesus, and 73 nothing Bears over Redskins, the NFL's greatest massacre. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, like the channel. Be back tomorrow. Until then, talk some more.